Previously, Talk made Dagon Rain's undead body shift slightly before going still to convince the prophetess that her spell had almost worked. He also told her that the group had killed the hag who lived in the swamp, so there was one less person out there to steal her potential followers. He then tried to gently steer her towards realizing that she needed a diamond and a ritual to make the spell work. Luckily, the prophetess picked up on Talk's hints and realized that a diamond was needed. Dagon Rain had a lot of wealth on him, so she grabbed the diamond from the chest full of his things. Around that point, Taria caught her attention, still in her disguise as an overly large kobold. The prophetess asked who she was, and Taria pretended to be a new convert who brought gifts. She handed over one of the tablets she'd found for the orcs, specifically one for Unseen Servant, which was relatively harmless compared to some of the other options, as well as her journal. Taria claimed her journal was a magic book that held secrets, and fog poured from it when it was opened. The prophetess and a number of kobolds panicked at the sight, and they kicked it out of the temple. Literally kicked it out. When she used the tablet, though, the prophetess was more impressed. She asked Taria about Zaya, also disguised as the too large kobold, and she told her the story of a praetor cutting out her tongue. The prophetess announced that she was going to heal her, so she pulled out some diamond dust and cast Greater Restoration. Zaya subtly shifted her disguised self spell so that her tongue was restored, and she started praising the prophetess as well. The prophetess wanted to try to raise Dagon Rain, but Talk told her he thought she should try someone else since she'd already attempted to bring him back. He conveniently didn't mention that he'd already turned that body into a zombie, so resurrection was off the table. She then started talking about killing Yara and Enola again, but Taria steered her away from that idea and suggested she raise a praetor since there were a number of bodies around. The prophetess liked the idea of bringing a praetor back to life and then killing him again. A few of the kobolds dragged in the body of a red-cloaked praetor and removed his mask. Underneath, there were more of the crystals that the group had seen at the prison camp, sky tears, embedded in his face. When they removed his armor, there was a large one in the center of his chest as well. Taria managed to convince the prophetess to let some other people help through some careful wording. Oz goaded the prophetess a bit, claiming it wouldn't work, so she sent Taria, the totally a kobold, over to talk with him. He explained that the sky tears embedded in the praetor's body would stop the resurrection magic from working. Taria went back and told the prophetess as much, and she cut the crystals out of his body. Then she settled in to cast the spell. Taria, Zaya, and Talk participated in the ritual, and the spell worked. The praetor gasped back to life, and the prophetess announced her success. Then she told all of the kobolds to immediately kill him again, which they did, violently. After he was dead, the service was over, and the various prisoners were taken back to their cages, or given new ones as applicable. Tarnek's body was taken into the temple and dropped with some of the other corpses. The guard carrying him noticed the coins on his eyes and started to take them, but Zaya convinced him he'd be cursed if he did. Keelan, Oz, and Sean were all placed in individual cages, while the others were given a hut to stay in for the night. When a guard wasn't watching, Sean used the hairpin that Tornak had given her in the Praetor prison camp to unlock her cage as well as that of Yara. Keelan constantly pulled water into his manacles and froze it, trying to weaken the lock on them. Oz tested the strength of his manacles and cage for the purposes of breaking them. In the hut, Taria and Zaya discussed what the plan was. The prophetess had mentioned that she would try to resurrect someone again the next day, but they knew that Aki was going to attack that night. They decided to try to postpone the attack until the next day, and then Aki could attack as soon as Tornak was brought back to life. Taria would write in the sky telling the prophetess to bring back the dwarf, and when the message disappeared, that would be the sign for Aki to attack. Zaya reached out to Aki to tell her the new plan. Aki said that they were ready to attack, but she clearly trusted the group, so she could wait if they thought it was best. After a bit, Zaya went out to talk to the prisoners in the cages and tell them the plan, while pretending to keep watch. Sean told her that she wanted to get Yara and Enola out of the camp during the night, just to keep them safe, and Zaya agreed that would be a good idea. Keelan had her bring a rock before she left. Around midnight, Taria came out to take watch. Sean quietly freed Yara and Enola, and both of them headed north into the swamp to find somewhere safe to hide. She locked the cages behind them before locking herself back in as well. Keelan and Sava used the stone Zaya had brought to break his manacles. When Taria left her watch, the kobold who took over didn't notice the missing prisoners at first. They only found out about it when another kobold came over and noticed. They asked the other prisoners what had happened, and Sean told them that they'd been there the last time she'd looked. The kobolds believed her, so they started blaming each other again. Taria woke up early to ritually cast Skyrite. In the sky, she wrote in Draconic, Ishitari, resurrect dwarf, use huge sky tier, keep him alive. Aurelian. When the prophetess noticed the writing, she called for everyone to come to the service immediately. Everyone packed themselves into the temple. She noticed that Yara and Enola were missing, and the second kobold from the night before blamed the first. The first blamed Taria. She and Zaya managed to shift her attention back to the ritual, though. They could find the escaped prisoners later. The prophetess prepared for the ritual, announcing to everyone that its success would be a sign that she was chosen by Aurelian. Zaya convinced her to have the dwarf's companions be the ones to participate in the ritual. Sean, Oz, and Keelan all participated, and it looked like all three of their contributions succeeded. Except the ritual still failed. One might say it almost looked like a critical failure. As soon as the ritual ended, Taria dropped concentration on Skyrite. That was the sign to Aki to start her attack. Ishitari, the prophetess, turned to each of the group, asking them why the spell didn't work, but none of them could answer her. She stormed out of the temple, calling out that the group brought falsehoods with them and should be killed. Oz rushed after her, attacking her as she stepped outside the temple. Several of the others followed, none of them attacking the kobolds inside, just her. Sean cast tongues on herself so that the kobolds would hear her speaking in Draconic, and she called out that Ishitari had said that if the spell succeeded, it would be a sign that she was chosen. They'd all seen for themselves that the spell failed. That meant she wasn't chosen by Aurelian. He'd turned his back on her. The kobolds all seemed to react to her saying that, a few agreeing, and then more of them, and more of them, and more of them. They started pouring out of the temple, joining in the attack against the prophetess until she was killed. One of them then grabbed her holy symbol and announced that he was Trovas the prophet now, the new chosen. And that is where we left off.